Welcome to Discover Barnstable, the official podcast of the town of Barnstable, a podcast where you can meet the people who steward the programs and services for the town of Barnstable that connects us to our quality of life. We invite you to join the conversation as we navigate municipal government and our community pathways to help you discover Barnstable. I'm Lynn Poyant, and today I am joined with my fellow co-host and tour guide, Liz Harsgrove. Hello, Liz.
Hello.
As we dive into this week's topic of conversation, Assessing 101 with Town Assessor Lane Partridge. Lane is an award-winning professional who was appointed Director of Assessing for the town of Barnstable in October of 2021. His previous experience includes tenure with the towns of Hingham and Concord, and on a state level with large-scale appraisal projects such as the Ted Williams Tunnel and the Central Artery. Welcome, Lane.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming and joining us.
Thanks for joining us. Well, that's a wide range of experience that you have from going from such big, very, very big projects and then going into, communities that are sizable or smaller than the town of Barnstable, Hingham and Concord, but those are off Cape. So
True.
Welcome to the Cape and welcome to the team of Barnstable, because you're the newest department or division head, I think, recently that has joined our team. So welcome.
Thank you. Didn't know that. Thanks.
Yeah. So with all of your experience and all of your background and passion for assessing, can you explain the difference? Because I have no idea. Let's just say that I have no idea what assessing is. Okay. Can you explain the difference between an assessment and an appraisal? Because I just got my house refinanced, or I'm going through the process, and I need to get an appraisal done, but then it doesn't somehow match up with the assessed value. Right. So can you tell me the difference between the two?
Yeah, so the main difference is time. So you're having an appraisal done right now as of a given date, probably whenever the inspector came to look at it, the appraiser. And he will do an appraisal specifically of your property and only your property. So he'll look for other comparable sales, houses that are similar to yours that have sold, and compare it to yours and establish a value. We do everything on a mass appraisal, which is look at the entire town. So we have to do 28,000 plus appraisals or valuations every single year. We would have to have a huge staff to be able to do an individual appraisal on every single one. So we use a CAMA system, computer-assisted mass appraisal, which is looking at valuing all that property all at once every single year. So the way it works, there's a model that is in the background, a mathematical model that calculates values. And what we do is every year we adjust that model so that it matches the houses that are sold. So we have about, 1,200 to 1,500 houses that sell every year in town that are legitimate sales, not selling to your sister or your family member or whatever. So we take those sales and we adjust the model so that the assessments are coming out as close to that value as possible. Can't be perfect because we're doing 29,000 all at once. And so once we get the model adjusted as close as we can to those sales, then we apply it to every other property in town that didn't sell. And that's how we come up with the values. And there's statistical testing that we do to make sure that we're in the right ballpark and things like that. The time element is that we're doing everything approximately 2 years behind. So let's take this year right now. We're in fiscal 22, the town's fiscal year, which started on July 1st, 21.
Right.
So the way the state law reads is we have to value your property on the previous January 1st from the start of the fiscal year. Right? I mean, this stuff twists around. So I'm going to give you exact dates. So our fiscal year started July 1st of 21.
Right.
We have to put a value as of January 1st, 21.
Okay.
Using the information sales data that occurred in calendar year 20. Okay. Oof. So we're really more, so this is fiscal 22, but we're really, the value that's out there, our assessed value is really what you could have sold your house for in 20.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, so you're having an appraisal done today or whenever it was last week or whenever.
Yeah.
So it's current. Ours is 2 years behind. So that's why they never match up. Now, generally, ours should be lower than what you get today.
Right.
It's not always, because there are, we do have downtrends in valuation. So that it could be, the market could actually be dropping, and we have not caught up to that yet. So it's really timing is the biggest thing.
Interesting. And on a broader scale, too, because as you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, my appraisal will just be done within a small little, parameter scope, but you're looking at the whole town in itself and coming up with the valuations of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a much bigger scale,
Yeah.
and it's not as accurate. I will be the first one to tell you that. It can't be. I mean, we're not individually looking at a specific house. We're looking at calibrating a computer model. So there's going to be irregularities to it. And it all comes down to, most of the time, it comes down to the data. So if we have not looked at your house for a number of years, you maybe did nothing to it. It maybe needs a paint job, it maybe has outdated bathrooms, whatever. And we may have it as good condition and maybe average condition or fair condition. And so we haven't caught up with what's really going on. And we only look at everything every 10 years. So that's state law, that we have to look at every house at least once every 10 years.
Physically?
Yeah,
Wow.
we have to go out.
And that's when the pictures change on the,
Right. Yeah, sometimes you'll see some old pictures, that's right, because we haven't been there for 10
It's
years.
like, oh yeah, my house used to be that color.
well, for me, I had to remove plants that had grown above my roof line. So it's different plants.
Step back
now.
in time there, yeah.
Yeah. And you can tell, I mean, I can look at a picture and say, oh, that's an old one.
Yeah.
We haven't been there for a while.
Yeah.
And when people complain, it's usually because we haven't been there for a while.
Got it.
So
Yeah,
it's
a
part of it.
lot can change in 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does commercial versus residential come into play? And I'm assuming that the 29,000 parcels includes commercial?
It does, yeah. The commercial is much less. We only have roughly, just under 4,000 parcels that are commercial and personal property. That's the two kind of get put together. And, mostly, I would say mostly in Hyannis, but every little town center has, a few stores, a few commercial properties, maybe some office buildings. And it's done virtually the same way, a little more specific, but not much. We break it down a little tighter, but we do value it the same way. Everything's, we use the same methodology, everything else, and we do the commercial properties.
So that system, though, that does the valuations for you, you were talking about that earlier, and that Barnstable uses it. Does every community use that? Every community in the Commonwealth uses that?
I'd say country.
In the country?
Yeah, every jurisdiction in the country uses some sort of a gamma program.
Okay.
May not be the same one we use. We
Right.
use a company called Vision Government Solutions. But there's several others that are fairly regularly used in Massachusetts. Vision's probably one of the bigger ones, and but everybody uses it. They have to.
So what's the benefit, or why, though? Why do they have to use it?
Just lack of money, lack of budgeting. You have to have some sort of a system to be able to do the valuation, because you can't send individual appraisers out to value every single house.
So it assists the employees, the staff, actually, in
Right.
being more effective in getting more accurate information and
Getting values that they couldn't change them as fast. So what
Right.
State law is that we have to change the values every single year. So we have to calibrate that model every single year.
Yeah.
So to have a staff that could go out and do an appraisal on every single property every single year would be impossible.
Clearly, yeah.
And we're actually a very small jurisdiction, 29,000 roughly properties. You go elsewhere in the country where jurisdictions are by county,
Oh,
they're huge. So I'll give you the one I'm friends with the assessor there is out in Arizona, Maricopa County, 1.5 million parcels. So how do you get a staff to go out and
Yeah.
appraise those, right?
Right.
So there has to be some sort of a computer assistance to all of this to do this mass appraisal. So everybody has it. They have to.
That's actually a benefit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what happens with people who might have, every property is not the same. There
Correct.
is no cookie cutter style, because depending on the person's investments in the property, everything comes into play. So how do you determine or acknowledge those differences? Is it an exemption, or is everybody like across the board? Can you talk about I've seen
Sure.
it, and I've heard residential exemption. So what does that mean?
Oh, residential
Lane?
exemptions. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
let's talk about that.
Okay, so the council, I think about 15 years ago now, voted to do the residential exemption.
Okay.
And it is a section of Mass General Law that allows them to give a discount in the value for every owner-occupant in town. And the owner-occupant is the key part. You have to own your house, and you have to occupy your house.
Okay.
Not as your second home, but as your primary residence.
Got it.
So anybody who, and we have roughly 13,000 people that get the exemption.
Okay.
Lynn,
Lynn,
yeah, there
year
we go.
one.
Lynn, you're
All
one.
right. Nice.
So what it does is it takes basically 119 this year, 119,109, I think it was, dollars off of the value of your house, which equated to about $1,029.
Oh my God, I can tell you're a math person. So
So, which, sorry.
that's not a bad thing. No.
Yeah. $8.64 rate. Yeah, I can kind of do it. So, but you have to qualify. So whenever a house changes
Yeah.
hands in Barnstable, we have to find out, okay, are you going to use it as a second home, or is this your primary residence? So anytime a property sells, we send out a mailer to ask them, explaining what's going on, tell us about the sale of your property, how'd you buy it, what's going on, how many bedrooms did it have, all that sort of stuff. And that helps us keep the record straight in our database, because we have a record of everybody's house. And remember what I said earlier, that sometimes the condition goes from good to average?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have number of bathrooms, number of bedrooms, size of the house, porches, garages, quality of construction, condition of the house. All those are part of our data that help. And if that data is not correct, then the model doesn't work right.
Right.
Because if I'm saying it's a good house and it's an average house, I'm going to get too high a number. So we look at all of that stuff. And part of that is sales questionnaires. So those go out whenever you buy a house.
Okay.
We send you out a questionnaire. And we also send you a letter saying, are you, here we have residential exemption in Barnstable. Here's what you need to qualify. Will you qualify? Please fill out an application. It's on our website, and send it in to us. So it's a very complicated law, too.
Yeah.
So whoever lives there on January 1st is who gets the exemption.
Oh.
So if you sell your house on January 2nd, you get the exemption and the new people don't.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But the following year, they can.
Following year, they can apply, and you better make sure you apply on your new house in Barnstable so you get it there. Doesn't automatically switch over.
Oh, it doesn't.
Because
Okay.
we don't know. So,
Right.
so did you sell the house and go to Florida and buy a smaller house so you can come up for the summer? We don't know.
Okay.
There's no way for us to know. So all we will do is send out the letter, the questionnaire, and a letter saying you may qualify for the residential exemption. If you think you do, fill out an application and send it in to us.
Nice.
So it's a huge part of what my office does, is just track that. It's amazing. It's just because everything that happens, we got to know what you did with the residential exemption. Did you move within town? Did you move to Florida? Did you move out of state? What's going on? Did you put the property in a trust? Could change it. Because if you put it in a trust and you're not the trustee and a beneficiary, you can't get the residential exemption because you're not considered the owner.
And that all then establishes what the tax bill's going to be, correct?
Yes, there is a change. So when we figure out who's going to get the residential exemption,
Yeah.
and we have to estimate this a little bit because it does change slightly year to year, but we roughly know where it is. And we changed the tax rate, correct, to account for it. So
Yeah.
the reduction of $119,000 off of all the people that get it, well, where does that come from?
Right.
It comes from everybody else.
Got
So
it.
the tax rate goes up just a little bit.
Or goes to, yeah.
No, it goes up a little bit for everybody. And that way, the additional money we're getting from everybody pays for the reduction in the 13,000 roughly that get it.
Got it. Okay.
So not all properties are eligible for the residential
Correct.
exemption. There's a certain limit or value of a house that if it goes above, what is it, $600,000?
Yeah, there's a break-even point, but everybody still gets it.
Okay.
So that's a little tricky. So if you are own your house and this is your primary residence, and you can prove that to us. Primary documentation, by the way, is the front page of your federal tax return,
Oh.
and you can white out all the money. I don't care about that. I just want to see that your mailing address is where you're at. So everybody can get it. Everybody gets it. But the break-even point is where the increase in the tax rate and the reduction of the $119,000 cross, and that's the break-even point. So anybody above that number still gets the exemption and still gets $1,029 off of their tax bill. But they are, because of the residential exemption, their tax bill is higher than it would be if we didn't have it. But if they don't apply for it, it's $1,029 higher than that. So it's even the more expensive houses that can qualify should apply.
Got it. So what happens though when somebody does not agree with you about a valuation? Does that ever happen?
No, never. We're perfect.
Come on.
All the time. All
I
the time.
sense a little bit of sarcasm.
A little bit of
in your
sarcasm.
voice. Okay.
Actually, we're not bad though. So
Okay.
we had, so when you disagree with our assessment, you can file an abatement application and contest your value. You can only do that the month of January.
Oh, okay.
And you're going to say, you're mean. Why only 1 month? Not me. That's state law.
Oh,
No choice. I don't have any way to extend it. I can't make it shorter. I can't make it longer. It's set in law. So it's basically the month of January. We can accept applications up to February 1st. And then that's it. 4:30 February 1st, doors closed. Sorry, can't do it.
got it.
There's a couple little caveats to that, but it's pretty minor. We don't need to get into those now. So you get an application. We review the application.
Okay.
My staff is reviewing them all right now. If there's a question on a house, number of bedrooms, number of baths, condition, whatever, sometimes if we haven't been there for a while, like let's say it's at the end of the 10 years, we make an appointment to go out and look at them. So we're in the process of that right now. So you may see my staff out visiting you at some point. And then we decide whether your value is right, wrong, what it should be. And if the model is right, then you get denied. If you're too high, we'll give you an abatement. If you're too low, we make note of it, and we don't change it this year, but we're going to look at it next year.
Oh.
So there's something going on there. And then it goes to the Board of Assessors. We have a 3-member Board of Assessors that review it once we make a recommendation to them, and they vote on it. If you're denied, we have to send you notification within 10 days.
Yep.
And then you can, if you are denied, or even if you granted an abatement, you don't think it's enough, you can appeal our decision to the state. And it's a group called the Appellate Tax Board. And you have 3 months from our denial date to file with them. And then we go in and we present our case, you present your case, and then the board decides. Kind of like small claims court.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the Board of Assessors, though, they're residents of Barnstable?
They
and
are.
actually appointed or elected?
They are appointed, yep.
Okay.
And they're all they live in Barnstable, yep.
Okay, but they're not town employees. They are they're
No.
separate from
Yep.
the actual town employees doing the work, so there is no conflict of interest. It's
Correct,
They're
yeah.
separate.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough job because they are actually the ones that finally decide, against some of their neighbors and friends in town and stuff
Yeah.
can be, so
Yeah.
it's a tough job. But we have a good board. We have very skilled board members. Their pedigrees are just as good as mine. They're very good. They're very smart. They know what they're doing. So if I miss something, they'll catch it. So it's a good group.
That's
So,
wonderful.
Yeah, you can feel confident that we're doing as best we can. And to give you an example, out of those 29 some odd thousand parcels, we only had 179 people file an abatement this year.
Wow.
So
That's much lower than I thought it would have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah, me too.
less than 0.5%. So that's pretty good. That means that most of the people in town are comfortable with our assessments, that we're fair.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging. Still a lot of work for us to go through 179 though, because we almost do your independent appraisal when it gets to that point, because we now drill in on those specific houses and look and pull comps and kind of go a little deeper than we normally do to make sure that the model did it right.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
a lot of work.
A lot of work and a lot of future topics for us to bring you back.
we could do a whole session on motor vehicle excise.
Well, we
Or boat
probably will.
excise.
Yes, we probably
Yeah.
will, because I know a lot of people have questions on that or
Sure.
want to learn more about it. So I certainly like hearing that.
Yeah,
So-
no, we can, I
So-
mean, like I said, we talked earlier, there's, just a whole class on this that the Assessors Association gives, and it's just an overview, and it takes a whole week.
Yeah.
So,
So
yeah.
speaking of which, how do people find out more information about assessing and the forms that we've already discussed? And, so
Yeah.
is there information?
It's all on our website.
Great.
So, yep, they can go on our website or call our office. We'll be glad to, to explain anything to them, residential exemption, whatever. Some people have post office boxes, so their tax returns don't say Barnstable. They give a post office box.
Yeah.
Especially up in the corner of town next to
Comaquid area?
Comaquid with
Yeah.
Yarmouth. They all have
Yeah.
P.O. boxes in Yarmouth,
Yeah.
basically. So, so we can go a little deeper into the dig to make sure you're a resident. So, that questions like that might come up. Just feel free to call my office. I get a good staff. They'll be glad to talk to you.
I have to say that one of the most popular features on the Town of Barnstable's website is the property lookup feature. Every time we were getting, numbers as far as what was trending, property lookup was always there. And one of the things that was added last year was the CWMP for the Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan.
Oh,
It
yeah.
now includes what phase you could possibly be in.
Oh, when you're going to get hit with it.
Yeah, so that's something that people have been looking for.
Yeah.
But it is one of the most popular features and it's great because you can search it by a parcel, you can search it by a last name, or you can search it by a street address.
Yeah.
Yep. And an added feature this year that we added to it, you can print out your property record card, which is a very detailed listing of how we came up with the value, what we think your house is, picture of your house, sketch of your house, everything. And each, when you do that lookup, there's an option to hit a property record card and you can print it out.
Yeah, and that's really actually very valuable. Not just, well, I know a lot of realtors that use that, but for personal use, you do want to have that information handy at times. And so that's really important to make that available to anyone online, which, we're very fortunate to have those resources available.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think a lot of people will go there and look before they file an abatement.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, well, I'm right in line with all my neighbors that, okay, so they're not doing something crazy here. Looks unified, which is one thing we try to do. So it helps us because I think people who take advantage of that realize that we're not so bad.
No, Barnstable is really wonderful, and we are really thorough. And again, Lane, thank you for joining us. We have a rapid fire question that was very secret.
Ooh, you mean it wasn't on my notes? You
No,
didn't tell me
not
about
at
this one?
all. No, and it's
Uh-oh.
my turn to ask the question.
Okay.
So you've been off Cape, so this is your first official summer on the Cape, is that right?
Oh, no.
Okay,
not
so
even
tell
close.
me-
So, grandparents, aunts and uncles, everybody have been coming to the Cape for years. So my maternal grandparents lived in Chatham for I don't know how long, for as long as I can remember. And then my wife's grandmother lived in Marsa Mills
Okay.
on Baxter Neck Road. So when I got married 30 years ago, we've been going to Baxter Neck forever. And she had an aunt that lived in Centerville, so we've been coming down to visit her. So this is not all new to me. I know where I'm going around here.
That's good because, your heart has been in Barnstable for a while
sure.
before becoming, one of the team. So
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and thank you again for coming. Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, listeners. Join us next week when we invite MEA shellfish biologist Liz Lewis and Senior Natural Resource Officer Amy Croto to come talk to us about the topic of Barnstable is known globally for shellfishing. What types of shellfish are in our estuaries? Where are those estuaries? The difference between residential and commercial shellfishing, and how this program provides much more than what we see on the half shell.
Thank you again, Lane, for joining us, and thanks, listeners, for spending time with us and listening to Discover Barnstable, the official podcast of the town of Barnstable. We hope you found a new understanding of how your municipal government works to protect, engage, and enact for you and our community. Be sure to drop us a line at podcast@town.barnstable.ma.us and let us know what it is that you would like to learn next. Till next time, go discover Barnstable.